So physics, we use physics, we add a body. Now the platforms are all static, that is, they don't move around, whereas the player is dynamic. So we say take the piece, make a static body. I give it a density of 1. I don't need to give it any density at all because it's static, so it doesn't really matter. But I was typing along. I think earlier I said I made the round one first. I might have been doing this at the same time I was doing the player, and the player density does matter, so I copied over the body builder for that. No bounce, because I don't want the player, when it hits it, to have bounce. Now here's an important thing. In your game, when you care about bouncing, if you make one object have no bounce and another object have bounce, I do believe you're still going to get a little bounce out of that. You'd be like, hey, why is it bouncing? I made the ground have no bounce. Yeah, okay, but what about the thing that hit it? So if you don't want it to bounce, you have to set the bounce to 0 for both of them, which is what I do here and in the player. You may recall from episode 1, as you can see here in debug mode, the body of the player is really just a circle. And the way we get motion is we have a force pushing this circle down into the current platform. And then if I move to the right, the circle rotates to the right, and I move to the left, the circle rotates to the left, and I use friction to... Sergey just keeps dropping on and off. He must be having a connection problem.
Yeah.
And I use friction to move the circle. So to make sure that the friction motion works properly, I set Sergey's back. I set friction to 1. Now, friction is one of those values where it can be greater than 1 or from 0 to some value as high as you like it. So if you find in your game that your friction isn't good enough, you're not getting enough lateral motion due to friction or slowdown or whatever it is you need, you can make the value higher. For me, friction 1 was high enough. This is a round body. So I simply said that the radius is half the block size being our sort of common value for the size of all these blocks. And then I did my little filtering business here. Now, I'm not going to go through it, but I talked about this in episode 1 or 2. I'm using the Roman Gamer collision calculator because I'm a super, super lazy guy. And all it does is you set it up, you tell it the objects that you're going to have, you give them names instead of numbers, and then you set up the rules. You say player collides with platform, pickup, monster, and dangers, and foot, which is that little business that dangles off the bottom, collides only with platforms. And then having done 4 lines of code, I can now simply say filter, and then I can say filter equals, and reach into the collision calculator and say, get the collision filter, do all the calculations for me for the platform. And it will return a table containing the correct values that goes into filter. No math. Always works 100% of the time. So if you've got a simple collision setup and you don't want to do the math or you're tired of making mistakes like I always used to do, then then simply grab the collision calculator and use that. So we've created the body. Again, the meat of it was basically 3 lines to create the body, or 3 lines here to create the body. What I think of as the body. It's the visual representation. And then to add a physics body, so a little bit more meat down here. And then we put the piece into our table, because this is a platform. We put it into our... I could have probably called pieces platforms to make it a little more clear, but pieces is just the platforms. We don't put the player in there, we don't put the coins in, we don't put the spikes in, because those aren't gravity objects. The purpose of this one table here is to be visible in the right places elsewhere so that we can determine our gravity object. So anything in here can be a gravity object. If I had put the spikes and coins in here, they would be allowed to be gravity objects, but we don't necessarily want that. That would actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that would be kind of cool. You could put a floating coin somewhere out there and be like, how can I get to that? Well, it's your gravity object. Choo.
Would it be a hidden object?
No, it wouldn't be hidden. I mean, you could put it out there, and yeah, I don't know. It's just something you can experiment with. But I bet you money that it would crash the game because I don't have code in here that says, hey, just a minute ago that piece was there, but then you picked it up and it was removed. What happened to it?
Okay.
That can't. Where'd my gravity go?
Yeah.
Or maybe it would work. It might work. I can't remember.
I was just thinking, classic Mario kind of thing, right? Where you jump around, you hit a coin that you didn't know was there,
Oh
then
yeah, yeah. Or you jump up in the platform with. Well, hey,
would it?
there you go. Why don't
Yeah.
we do that? Okay, we're on it. That's our thing today. We're gonna make that today in the next 10 minutes. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do it.
Are we really?
Yeah, we're really gonna do
Oh,
it.
I couldn't tell if
Okay.
you were being facetious or not.
I'm not joking with you. So
Oh, okay.
second half of this thing is I want people to make their own. So here we go. We're gonna do it. It's really super simple. What I want you to do is do what I'm doing here. Find round, grab it, copy it, paste it, call it, we're going to call this one Charles. This is Charles, because it's Charles's idea. We're going to put it in here in our editor. Okay, before we do anything, go into Game and go to the top of the file, locate round. You don't necessarily need to do it right here, but anywhere in this section, but it's easy for me to do this. Copy round. We're going to call it Charles. And we're going to call this Charles. Okay, so we've loaded the script, which we just copied. Scripts, builders, Charles. And we're going to put it in builders, Charles. So, okay, now that's available within our game builder. Now we go into level loader. And we locate round again. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to create another level block. We're going to call this Charles. Okay, look through your level builders here. Builder files B, R, R. Do we have a C available? No, we don't. Okay, let's choose. Let's kind of choose I for invisible. This is one of the weaknesses of my layout here is having to remember what these tokens mean. So just bear with me. Charles's invisible block. That's what we're thinking here. Okay, so we got builder files I. And then when we see that in our level file, we replace that with the token Charles, which then allows game to select the right builder to build it. So bear with me here. So that's what's happening. And let's go ahead and go into level 0. Let's find it. Levels. So we get down to game, data, level 0, level 1, I'm sorry. Open level 1. Find the platforms. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a new one in here, and we'll just put a note. I is dash Charles invisible platform. And that's just a note for ourselves. I'll propagate that to all the files later. Okay, find the beginning point. So B1, that's where we start. And I'm going to put one of Charles's platforms right here. Just say I1. Now, I know for a fact that this part here doesn't make any difference, so I could have put that. But I've been tending to go with -1. So what this is going to say is choose the Charles invisible platform, then the underbar separator, and then 1. So subtype 1. Well, we don't have any subtypes, so it doesn't really matter. It's going to pass 1 in, but it will make no difference to our code. The reason I've been doing that, just going with 1 even if the subtype isn't used, is because if I feel later like, hey, it'd be really cool to make like the round do something special if it was subtype 2, then I've got it in there already. I can just change some of them to 2 and I'm done. And add the code, of course. Okay, so we got Charles. At this point, having made just those changes, I think, if I didn't make any typos, we should be able to reload. And now we've got the copied version, which is the round circle. So this is our code that we just copied. Same as the builder for this one, but now it's in a different file. So what we want to do is we want this to start off invisible, but if you jump, and as soon as you touch it, we want it to go boop and like be visible. That's how I'm reading this, and that's what we're going to do this time.